Cool. So we're looking at the nudge down, and what we want the functionality to be is if the play rate is above above 1, we want this functionality to be as it is now. You know, it increments down in a set amount. But then when we get below 1, we want to, instead of just subtracting a set amount each time, we want to reduce it by a percentage value. Cool, so let's write what we want here. If the current play rate is above 1, then reduce by 0.25, right? But if the current play rate is below 1, then take off, I reckon 10%. All right. Cool. All right. So let's store that as a parameter. Increment amount, and we'll call it percentage amount, and that can be 0.1. So 0.1 is 10%. 10%. Cool. So this is pretty straightforward. We can keep this line because that's sort of the default behavior. But then we do another check. So if current play rate is less than or equal to 1, I don't know if we've come across that syntax in these videos yet, but less than sign, equal sign, those two together mean less than or equal to, less than or equal to 1. That's what that means. So if current play rate is less than or equal to 1, then reduce by 10% instead. So we've already done this calculation, but we're actually just going to override it with a new calculation. And that is going to be, well, actually, I might encourage you to pause the video, see if you can figure out how to reduce the value by 10%. But like always, if you don't want to do that, just keep watching. No problem. So what it is current rate minus bracket current rate times percentage amount. And that'll do it. So that overrides this with this, and then when we pass this in, we're actually looking at this. Cool. So let's just quickly talking about how those numbers work. Let's say current play rate is 1, which is probably what it will usually be when you run this script. If current play rate is 1, this value here will be 0.1. So we're subtracting 0.1 from current play rate, so it'll set it to 0.9, which is 10% less. So that's the behavior that we want. Cool. So let's give that a go. So I'll go up a little first, and then down. It's incrementing by a standard amount. But then when we dip below 1, you can see that the amounts get less and less, and that they are actually 10%, and it sort of has like a asymptotic behavior when it gets really low. But then it's going to increase really quickly back up. Yeah, and that's probably what I want. You could set it so that the up increment also has the same behavior. It adds 10%. For my scripts, that's probably not what I want to happen though. I probably, if I'm going really slow, I'd like to quickly claw my way out of it by doing that. But yeah, that'd be pretty straightforward to implement, right? Well, essentially it would be exactly, just copy and paste this whole script, change direction to +1, and then, yeah, right. So we hard set the negative sign here. So what we probably want to do is change that to a plus, and then multiply that by the direction. That way it works for both the up and down. So now let's just test it real quick to make sure it still works as expected. Yep. Cool. Yeah. So now if you wanted that functionality to work in the up one, just copy and paste this whole script, dump it into the other one, override the other one with this, and then change this to a -1, +1, and then it'll have that behavior below current play rate 1. Cool. All right, so hopefully you find that useful. I certainly find this one useful. I use this a lot. And I hope you do too. All right, thanks.